Before Egypt had a name, before kings, temples, or pyramids, there was only the Nile, a river cutting through endless desert, a moving ribbon of life in a land of death. Each year, its waters rose without warning. They swallowed the earth, then slowly pulled back, leaving behind dark, fertile soil. To the people who lived here, this was not just water. It was life. It was judgment. It was divine. They believed the river chose who would thrive and who would disappear. And long before history was written, a truth was already known. Egypt was the gift of the Nile. Along the river's edge, humans began to settle. They built homes from mud and reeds. They fished in silence at dawn. They planted grain in soil still wet from the flood. At night, fires flickered beneath a sky filled with unfamiliar stars. The people believed those lights were gods watching from above. Life was simple, but never safe. One weak flood meant hunger, one violent flood meant destruction, so they prayed. They carved symbols into bone and stone. They believed the universe depended on balance, order, harmony, Ma'at. Slowly, villages formed, villages turned into settlements, settlements became something more, and with growth came rivalry. The Nile did not shape Egypt evenly. In the south, the river flowed through narrow valleys and rocky land. Strong communities grew here, hardened by labor and conflict. In the north, the river spread wide into marshes and delta lands. Trade flourished. Boats crisscrossed the water like insects. The people did not see one land. They saw two worlds. Each worshipped different gods. Each followed different customs. Each carried its own symbols of power. The south wore the white crown. The north wore the red crown. And neither would bow. In the south, hunters painted images of strength and conquest. In the north, traders carved marks of wealth and prosperity. Animals were sacred. Dreams were messages. Death was not an ending, but a passage. The dead were buried with tools, food, and charms. Because life, they believed, continued beyond the veil. Over time, leaders rose, not kings, not gods, but men whose voices carried weight, men who protected land and took it from others. And power, once scattered, began to take shape. Trade routes hardened into borders. Borders turned into battlegrounds. Raids became common. Symbols became banners. Deaths demanded vengeance. The north wanted control of the river. The south demanded dominance of the land. Both believed the gods stood with them. Generation by generation, the same truth became painfully clear. This land could not survive divided. It needed one ruler, one order, one hand to guide the river and the people. History waited. From the southern land, a ruler emerged. His name was Narmer. He was not just a leader, he was a warrior. Narmer fought not for territory alone, but for unity. Through conquest and command, he crushed resistance in the north. And when the battles ended, something unseen before appeared. One ruler wearing two crowns, the white of the south, the red of the north. For the first time, Egypt was one. Narmer did not call himself king. He became the first pharaoh. His legacy was carved into stone. The Narmer palette shows him standing above defeated enemies, a god-king in human form. On one side, he wears the crown of the south. On the other, the crown of the north. This was more than art. It was declaration. This land was united. This order was permanent. And this power was divine. History had begun. Narmer did not just unite territory. He built a system, a ruler chosen by gods, a state governed through ritual, an identity shared by farmers, priests, and warriors alike. From this moment forward, Egypt had one government, one sacred order, one destiny. Every pharaoh who followed, from pyramid builders to warrior kings, ruled in Narmer's shadow. He did not inherit Egypt. He created it. And yet, after uniting the land, Narmer vanishes from history. No confirmed tomb, no recorded death, only silence. The man who forged a civilization disappears into legend. So what happened to the first pharaoh? And was the power he created too great for any one man? After the death of Narmer, the land of Kemet did not fall silent. Instead, a new era stirred. The double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt passed to his heir, Aha, the first to rule in the fully unified kingdom that Narmer had forged. Aha strengthened what Narmer began. He built temples, expanded trade routes, and pushed Egypt's borders southward. Under his rule, the new capital, Memphis, began to rise from the floodplain, guarding the meeting point of north and south. But unity was still young. Local chiefs tested the crown's power. Nobles in the Delta whispered for independence. And so, each early king fought not just foreign enemies, but the old habits of a land used to being divided. Aha was followed by Djoser, a ruler remembered for strength and expansion. During his reign, Egypt's influence stretched into Sinai and Nubia. His tomb, discovered millennia later in Abydos, showed a kingdom growing richer. Gold, ivory, fine tools, symbols of a civilization taking shape. Then came Djet, whose name was written with a serpent. Under him, writing became more organized, rituals more complex, and royal power more sacred. The kings of Egypt were no longer merely rulers. They were becoming living gods. After Djet's death, his young son was too small to rule. And so, a powerful woman stepped forward. Merneith, possibly the first female ruler in history. She governed as regent, stabilizing the kingdom until her son, Den, grew old enough to take the throne. Den's reign marked a turning point. He introduced new royal titles, reorganized the court, and led Egypt into battles that would echo through its early history. Under Den, the pharaoh became not just a leader, but the beating heart of a nation. After Den, a series of rulers, Anajib, Semerkhet, and Kwa, continued to refine the young kingdom. There were conflicts, palace intrigues, and growing pains. Yet Egypt endured, learning how to be an empire. By the time the First Dynasty ended, Egypt stood stronger, richer, and more organized than ever before. And from this foundation, a new king would rise, one whose vision would reshape the desert forever. His name, Djoser. And that is where our next chapter begins. If you want to continue this journey through the rise of the pharaohs, subscribe, because Egypt's story has only just begun.